race number 7 of the Race number 7 of the Maritime iRacing League Series at Martinsville Speedway. Just over half a mile, these drivers will compete for 150 laps, 75 miles around the flat Martinsville Oval. Ricky Arbeau walks in with the points lead. Will he continue that streak, or will another challenger rise to the top? You are watching the Maritime iRacing League live from Martinsville Speedway on ETV Motorsports Entertainment. Good evening, race fans. Joe Cortez, Tony Stevens joining you in the booth, and Tony, tonight ought to be a barn burner. Half mile here at Martinsville. Plenty of racing room for these guys. They're getting ready to have a lot of fun in this super late model.
I think they are, Joe. Martinsville is traditionally known as a late model stock car track. A big, heavy, underpowered, overbearing late model stock car, much like the older late model on iRacing. In fact, exactly like the older late model on iRacing. They host the Virginia's for Racing Lovers 300 here every single October for those cars, but this is something we're not used to seeing in reality. Thankfully, via iRacing, we can see it more often now. Super late models at Martinsville, and with the power these cars put out, Joe, with the wide track width, they're lightweight, we're going to see cars be able to maneuver through the corners, number one. Number two, we're going to see cars literally going just as fast, if not faster, than Cup cars around the Martinsville Speedway. It's going to be a sight to see, and with the maneuverability, as I said, of these super late models, I think this will be some of the best racing you'll ever see at Martinsville.
These cars are absolutely, like as you said, they are very maneuverable, they are very quick around the speedway, and we should see some very, very good racing. Half a mile here at Martinsville. This is one of the longer courses that these guys run in the Maritime iRacing League. So tonight's race, Tony, almost going to be like a super speedway feature for these guys out here, running the big half mile at Martinsville. It's, again, very wide, very flat track. 2 wide racing definitely going to be in the group. Are we going to see 3 wide racing tonight from these guys in the Maritime League?
It wouldn't surprise me. You're not going to do it on either end of this paperclip. You're going to do it down the straightaway if you're going to do it. And I think it's very doable. Late in the race, somebody might try something crazy, but still, you're going to see no more, I don't think, than simply double file racing through both ends of the racetrack because of the sheer shape of this, well, I don't want to say old, but this been around a while, Martinsville Speedway. You think back when this track was first built, Joe, in 1947. This place has been around for a long time, and it was the very essence of what a stock car track was back then. A couple of straightaways and a couple of corners. Go down, turn around the light pole, and come back, essentially. But it has had the staying power because it is such a great racetrack. It is so unique and produces some of the best racing and some of the closest finishes we ever see, no matter whether it's iRacing or the physical racing world. Either way, Martinsville is a keeper and a classic.
Qualifying just about winding down for the 22 drivers that will take the green flag here tonight at Martinsville. On the pole is going, or right now on the pole anyway, your provisional pole sitter, Ricky Arbeau, your points leader, scoring 2 wins so far in the 2014 Super Series campaign, has the points lead, 10 points over Jake Goodwin in second. Kevin Walker is in third in points. Stephen Matthews fourth. Stephen Arsenault is fifth. Last season's champion Ronnie McKay currently sits in sixth. Nathan Doherty seventh. Our very own Tim Terry in eighth. Keith Mack ninth. And Todd Cousins rounds out the top 10 in points. So Ricky Arbeau's got to be feeling very good about himself right now. He's on the top of the points lead. He's on the provisional pole right now, but the guys chasing him for the points, Jake Goodwin, Kevin Walker, they start third, fourth provisionally as we speak. And then there's the wild card, Dylan Duval, who 2 weeks ago brought the Swan into victory lane for the first time this season. He's going to start outside of row number 1.
And that's something to look at, Joe. Dylan's always been a great competitor. He's always been very, very savvy when it comes to being behind the wheel, and I think tonight at Martinsville's going to be no exception. One of those guys you did mention, though, in the top 10, Tim Terry, not going to be here, so he's more than likely going to drop down through the standings a little bit. But look through the qualifying order so far, Joe. You see natural breaks in the times, essentially. You see a couple of guys in the 19.2s. You see another group about a tenth to a tenth and a half behind them. Then another group about a tenth to a tenth and a half behind them. So I think what we're going to see tonight is 3 distinctive packs, so to speak, of racing. You're going to have the contenders up front, the mid-packers, and the guys that are also in the back just making laps. However, if the pit strategy falls right, if everything goes according to plan, guess what? You could end up as, say, a mid-packer at the front of this field when it comes down to crunch time.
very easily and very quickly. You could drop through the field. Not a whole lot of time for tonight's race. 150 laps is going to evaporate very, very quickly. About 75 miles around Martinsville Speedway these guys will go. Last time we went racing, Ricky Arbeau finished second. Dylan Duvall driving that Tim Terry number 75 Swan Racing Machine was up front for the win. Kevin Walker came in third, Keith Mack fourth, and Stephen Matthews rounded out your top five. Jake Goodwin second in points. He was all the way back in position number 8. So you know that for Jake Goodwin right now, provisionally starting third, he's got a lot on his shoulders. He's got a lot to consider as he gets ready to go green flag racing. Only 10 points behind Ricky Arbeau for the points lead. This could be a make or break night for Jake.
It really could, Joe. And by the same token, not so much even just whether he runs well or doesn't, but Martinsville, by its sheer nature, is subject to very controversial incidents. Because of these tight corners along straightaways, you're very, very likely to see a guy dive off in there and think he's got a little bit more brake power than he actually has, or maybe he's got a little bit narrower nose than he actually has. Whatever the case is, Martinsville is known to be one of those racetracks you go into kind of just having that feeling that you're going to get dumped at least once over the course of the night, and how you handle that is going to be imperative and key to your success or lack of success if you happen to blow your top too soon.
And which could very easily happen here at Martinsville, and all these guys are going to try to be avoiding that tonight. The season winding down here in the Maritime iRacing League as the weather gets nicer and all these drivers get ready to go back to their regular racing schedules throughout the Maritimes of Canada. Only 3 races left in the regular season. USA Speedway March 5th, an open date on March 12th. Either Oxford or Stafford will be run, and then the finale March 19th at Lanier, 200 laps for that feature, then all followed by the All-Star Challenge at the end of March. So these guys, it's coming down to crunch time for them, and they can't afford a misstep at Martinsville, though Martinsville might create a misstep for them if they don't play it right, and like you said, Tony, blow their top too soon.
Absolutely. It's all about patience here. 150 laps on a lot of short tracks. Yeah, it's a long time, but it's not quite as long as it is here at Martinsville. It seems like for whatever reason, the laps tend to get longer here, the races tend to run longer here, and it just seems like everything happens so slow at Martinsville compared to a Thompson or an Oxford or an Irwindale or USA or wherever it is. Why it is, I don't know, but it's very, very important you maintain your composure over the 150 laps, or before you know it, you're going to be on the truck watching the rest of this one.
Absolutely, that is not the place you want to be. You want to be on the track on lap 150, not behind the wall, not on the truck, and all these Maritime iRacing League drivers about to get it going. We are winding down the official drivers meeting coming to an end. Let's go ahead and take it down trackside for our opening ceremony and the playing of the Canadian National Anthem.
True patriot love in all thy sons
The Canadian national anthem ringing out here at Martinsville Speedway. They're getting ready to line up all 22 late models. That will start tonight's feature here at Martinsville Speedway. Tony, should be some very fun racing. Clear conditions tonight. 69 degrees with relatively low humidity. It's going to make for good conditions for these guys to go green flag racing for quite a while tonight. Pace car is on the field and he's collecting all of the drivers as we speak. As soon as we have your front row lined up, and it looks like we do, let's go ahead and take you down to tonight's qualifying order. On the pole tonight will be the number 61 machine of Ricky Arbeau, starting with a qualifying time of 19.241 seconds. On the outside of him, the 75 machine, normally occupied by Tim Terry, will be driven by Dylan Duvall.
Jake Goodwin's 48, the Red Bull sponsored entry, starts third, and to his outside, the 35 of Kevin Walker.
Ronnie McKay in the 03 machine will start position number 5 tonight. On the outside of him, it's the 34 of Mike Rhino.
Brad Eddy, the super late model pilot, in reality piloting his virtual one here this evening from position number 7. Stephen Matthews, position number 8 in the number 98.
Row number 5 belongs to Todd Cousins, the 05 on the inside. On the outside of him, it's the 27 of Carter Wilson.
Chris Stewart in the Uh-Oh machine, along with Keith Mack, will make up row number 6.
Row number 7 belongs to Kyle Gammon in the 51 machine. Outside of him, the 38 of Travis Roma.
Scott Nigas in the 15 machine, or the 29 machine, roll off 15th, and Stefan Arsenault rolls off in the 16th spot.
Kyle Bordeaux in the 65 starts 17th. David Cassidy, the 13, starts 18th. Morgan Murphy in the 89 will start 19th. That's a Chevrolet machine. The 20 of Doug Ubley will start 33rd. Will start in the 33 machine in position number 20. Don Steves, Nick Story, and Luke Caisi round out your field of 22 tonight, getting ready to do battle over 150 laps at Martinsville Speedway. They're going to take one more parade lap, and then it's all in the capable hands of Ricky Arbeau, where they will go green flag racing 150 laps. Get ready for a barn burner.
It's going to be fun, Joe, to see how this race plays out. 20-plus cars ready to take the green flag. Pretty stout field of super late models here at Martinsville, and as we said, we're not used to seeing these cars here. We think we know what to anticipate. We think we know what to expect, but until we throw the green flag momentarily, all of those are simply assumptions.
The 61 makes it around turns 3 and 4, and as soon as he crosses the commitment line, it hits the hammer. Green flag flies, and Ricky Arbeau leads lap number 1, or starts lap number 1 on the right foot. Right behind him, two competitors battling for position. Dylan Duvall, Jake Goodwin, positions 2 and 3. It'll be Duvall getting the advantage. Jake Goodwin now 3rd, Kevin Walker 4th, Ron McKay 5th, and already a little bit of 3-wide racing. It's the 05, the 98, and the 34 machine. The 05 machine gets away up front, and now we got a new leader at the front of this field.
Dylan Duvall takes Tim Terry's number 75 machine to the point. He got by Ricky Arbeau down the back straightaway. Actually, check that, down the front straightaway just a lap ago. So Arbeau led lap number 1. Dylan Duvall, however, will be credited as the point man on lap number 2. So if anybody says that 75 car is not fast, well, all you have to do is replace the driver, and guess what? It ends up at the front of the field.
The 00 of Chris Stewart. The 00 Chris Stewart almost had a little bit of trouble in that Autism Speaks machine. Chris Stewart almost lost it going through turns 3 and 4 last time around. He's going to drop to the outside lane, lose a couple positions. The 00 now being scored position number 15th behind the 22, the zigzag machine of Keith Mack. But he's going to find a way to save it and get back in line. Another driver having a little bit of trouble is that 89 machine. That's Morgan Murphy in the Chevrolet, the blue Chevrolet machine, running around behind the 52 of Stephen Arsenault. Arsenault able to make it work, and now they're going to try to pass on the outside, getting around the 65 of Kyle Bordeaux.
You know, unlike the late model stock car here, you can pass, I believe, in a super late model up top, Joe, because of the sheer weight differential, the power differential, everything about this car is made to be a race car, and that's something I think that you can really take to the bank here at Martinsville, and maybe, unlike a lot of other types of race cars, make the outside work.
Top 5 really spread out right now, all running single file through the field. Battle for the next battle for position is around position number 14. You see the 22 of Keith Mack, the zigzag machine, under fire from the 34, the Ford EcoBoost machine of Mike Rhino. Rhino doing everything he can to pass on the outside. The 22 of Keith Mack trying to get around the 38 of Travis Roma. Roma have no choice but to yield the position this time around. The 34 is going to go around for the ride as well. I know you can make that move on the high side, but the low line seems to be where they can get a little bit more torque, get a little bit more power, and you see those two cars, the 22, the 34, dispatch Travis Roma without any difficulty. Travis Roma in 2 laps goes from 12th to 14th.
And Joe, one of the key things about the super late model, especially in the early laps of a run, you got to make sure you drive straight off the corner. If you're up top, you're pretty much dictated what line you have to run with the guy below you, and he can really force you to arc that car out and stay out of the gas, and it's real easy to get by somebody on the bottom. Now, as the tires wear and they get some heat in them, we might see the top lane come in. Again, this is all theoretical. We've never really seen super late models here at Martinsville until tonight on ETV, so this is a learning experience for all of us. Now, if you're on the bottom like you were talking about, Joe, yeah, that's the shortest way around by far. However, the other key part is you can get the car rotated, you can point it where you want to point it, and if you want to drive as straight off of that corner as you possibly can, you can do it. And the quicker you can do that, the better off you're going to be, because this car loves to go fast in a straight line.
Dylan Duvall almost had a little help getting around from Ricky Arbeau in the 61 machine. The 61 getting dangerously close, making a little bit of contact with the 75. Dylan Duvall able to rescue it, but Ricky Arbeau, learning from that lesson, he's going to fall all the way back out there, and he's going to go at least 3 car lengths away from that 75, making sure that he doesn't cause an unnecessary incident. If he does cause an incident, that could see him at the back of the field. Caution on the track.
Trouble on the speedway, Joe. Don't see exactly what brought out the yellow flag. We do have one car stalled, or I shouldn't say stalled, but at reduced speed inside pit road. That is the 89 of Morgan Murphy, the Chevy Cruze sponsor machine. Looks like he might have had some sort of mechanical issues on that car. He sailed it off into turn 1, and then the car just really didn't want to go off turn number 2. He pulled out of line and actually did see a little puff of smoke in the replay now. So it looks like the Morgan Murphy machine is going to have to call it a night, bringing out the first caution of the evening.
The Chevy Cruze of Morgan Murphy right in the apex of the turn, coming off. As soon as he hit the gas, coming off the turns 1 and 2, you saw that puff of smoke come out of the machine, and he is done. Morgan Murphy forced to pull up behind the wall. He will be the first car off pit road. The 29 of Scott Negus, I'm being told, also coming down pit road right now to get a little bit of attention from his crew, and I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of guys come on pit road. The 33 of Doug Ubley now coming on pit road as well. Undershoots his stall just a little bit there. Now right into where he needs to be. Also on pit road, the 34 of Mike Rhino. Tony, what are they going to be looking for when they come down pit road?
I think one thing you got to look for sometimes are just simply chassis adjustments, whether that's a roundel edge or a track bar adjustment. That's something I think you need to consider especially if you're in the back of the field. Some drivers have been playing with fuel levels. They might want to jack with that a little bit, add a little bit of extra rear ballast to the car to help get the car to turn, although it is going to hamper it a little bit on the straightaway. So there are certain things you can play with. You've got tape to play with, and in the case of Morgan Murphy, a little too much tape on the front of the grill cooked his engine here in the early stages. So tough break again for Morgan Murphy. But some teams are going to be taking some swings at it, Joe. If you're that far out to lunch, why not? It's early, you got nothing to lose, and in a worst case scenario, you put it back the way it was.
If you're at the back of the field, you have nothing to lose, might as well make an adjustment, might as well figure something out, and just make it work in some way, shape, or form. You still got plenty of time to make it work out there. We're only running lap 16 of 150 laps, and as these things tend to be, as these late model features tend to be, they tend to be littered with cautions. Not overwhelmed, but littered with cautions. When we were at Irwindale 2 weeks ago, they had 9 caution flags across the 150 lap feature, so there's a little bit of time. There's a little bit of advantage that you have, able to come down pit road as you need to be, but it's somewhere you don't want to spend a whole lot of time because these laps do tick off in a hurry.
They do, Joe, and really about the tune of 20 seconds a lap under green. You're cranking out 3 laps per minute, and you do the math on that, it's a less than 1 hour race, assuming the race stays green. So things can happen very quickly here, but like we said at the outset, even though those laps do click off quickly and you have quick lap times, for whatever reason, as the pace car pulls off onto the safety of pit road, this race from behind the cockpit wheel just seems to take forever.
The 75 machine gets a bump from the 48 off the restart line, and the 75 almost loses his position from Jake Goodwin trying to get a little bit of advantage on Dylan Duvall. Dylan Duvall somehow able to rescue it, not before they went 3 wide at the commitment line, at the restart line. Dylan Duvall now back in control of this race. Ricky Arbeau second, Jake Goodwin third. I know these guys lost to Dylan Duvall, or at least Dylan Duvall won the race 2 weeks ago at Irwindale. I think these guys are trying to send a message. He won't do it again if they have something to say about it. Dylan Duvall now breaking away with Ricky Arbeau. Jake Goodwin under fire from the 0-3 of Ron McKay.
Just a corner ago, Ronnie McKay got in the back of the 48 of Jake Goodwin. In fact, gave him a really good shot getting into turn number 1. I thought maybe the 48 car was going to end up in the outside wall, but Joe, the added downforce of the super late models, we got one car in the wall over in turn number 1, and that is going to bring out the caution flag. Looks like, well, it's one of the black cars. That is Kyle Gammon in the outside wall, the 51 machine. He got crossed up and just nosed it into the outside wall. Nothing substantial. Really didn't have, well, I'll take that back. I think he had a little bit of help, but very minimal damage for the most part on the Kyle Gammon car. Nonetheless, not typical of your Martinsville wreck. Usually you get hit getting into the corner, you back it in. You don't nose it into the wall. Kyle Gammon did just that.
22 machine of Keith Mack did it, or I'm sorry, 22 machine of Keith Mack helped the 51 of Kyle Gammon nose it around there, and he just did just that. He almost pit maneuvered him going into turns 1 and 2. That caused the 51 to get out of line and then kiss the wall, that safer barrier, up in turn number 1. Good news for Kyle Gammon, though, however. One, if he wants to get that repaired, which he's going to come down pit road and do so right this moment, that is going to be repairable. Number 2 for Kyle Gammon, the damage shouldn't affect his engine. It won't affect his aerodynamics. He should still have a viable race car out here on the track at Martinsville. As long as it didn't do any engine damage to that machine, he should be okay.
Absolutely, Joe. We'll touch more on that here in just a little bit. It looks like we're getting ready to take a break here from Martinsville. Don't go away. You're watching the Maritime iRacing League live here on ETV.
InsideSimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, and green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Oh, Miss Lucy dead and gone, left me here to weep and moan.
Great lights are off on the first racing Ford Mustang pace car here at Martinsville Speedway. The Maritime iRacing League getting ready to get back at it here on ETV Motorsports Entertainment. Dylan Duvall still in control of this field. Ricky Arbeau, Ronnie McKay, Jake Goodwin, Kevin Walker, your top 5 as the pace car ducks in for the second time tonight. Dylan Duvall looking for a better restart than he had the last time we tried it. Lap number 25, not even a quarter of the way through, and they're already getting bumped from the guys behind him. Everyone antsy for the big start here, and it's gonna be Dylan Duvall. Let's get on! Ricky Arbeau gets into it. The 48 machine, the 00, all get involved. Caution flag comes out on turns 1 and 2, and that's gonna take out a lot of your points leaders.
That was all Ronnie McKay, Joe. Simply put, it's the same thing that happened to Jake Goodwin on the last restart. He got into turn 1 way too hot, and this time the guy he got into, Ricky Arbeau, was not able to save it. He got into him that hard, and unfortunately Arbeau took out about 4 or 5 cars with him. So I think Ronnie McKay will probably end up at least at the end of the longest line for that one. There's no question. When you watch the video, it'll speak for itself.
Yeah, he's going to end up at the end of the longest line. Ron McKay just overestimating that turn, overestimating the drivers in front of him. He's going to get in the 48. It's a chain reaction, almost like a combo shot. If you're think of it as a pool table, though, 03 gets in the 48, 48 gets in the 61, and that causes big junk. The 05 machine of Todd Cousins gets a piece of it. The 00 machine of Chris Stewart gets a piece of it. And there's a couple of the drivers I'm seeing. The 13 machine, he gets into it as well. At 13, piloted by David Cassidy, he's going to turn it the wrong way. Everyone else able to rescue it, but 5 cars now going to need a little bit of help, a little bit of damage repair, and Ron McKay, that's not what he wanted. That's not what he wanted to cause. He's going to regret that move.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he maybe got away with it on the 48 car a little bit earlier and thought maybe I can do this again and get a couple spots, but just proved how good of a driver Jake Goodwin was to anticipate that and hang on to it. And I think that Ronnie McKay is definitely going to think twice about making a move similar to that anytime in the near future, because that was, especially on lap 1 after a restart, Joe, 20-some laps into a 150-lap race, there really is no call for that.
Well, again, it just seems like he overestimated himself just a little bit there. He overestimated what the line was doing and how they were going to run through the turns 1 and 2 there. And I think he had the best of intentions. He wanted that restart. He wanted to be aggressive on it, but it just ended up not in his favor. And now Ron McKay's going to have a little bit of time to think about what he did and how he could have approached that a whole lot better out here at Martinsville Speedway. But there's still plenty of racing left. Those guys that were involved in that incident, they still have time to get back out on track. Though the question now is, the 75 of Dylan Duval has an unscathed car. He's proven himself as a winner in this series. This is just getting better. The night's just getting better and better for Dylan Duval in that Swan machine.
Well, if it can get better and better, Joe, I don't know how it gets better and better if you're up front the whole race. It's like the pinnacle of better, or a pinnacle of good, whatever you want to call it. The only thing, I guess, that could be better is there are fewer and fewer laps every time you cross the flag stand. But that's expected in a race like this.
Would you say it's more better for Dylan Duval?
It's betterer.
Betterer. Thank you. I was looking for the technical term.
Yeah, exactly. It's betterer is what we call it, yeah.
Better.
Not to be confused with most betterist.
Oh, no, it's the only way it can be most betterist is if he wins it. Which, again, Dylan Duval is a proven winner here at Martinsville, and it wouldn't surprise me, or I'm sorry, in the Maritime iRacing League, he won last week at Irwindale, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does it again here at Martinsville. 2 lines of racing getting ready to go back at it. The 75 of Dylan Duval will be joined by the 03 of Ronnie McKay on the front row. He won't be penalized into the back of the field. Kevin Walker, Brad Eddy, Keith Mack, your top 5 as the pace car goes down pit road. What are they going to do here on the restart? The 75 machine of Dylan Duval, followed by the 03 of Ronnie McKay. They hit the restart line, and the 75 drops the hammer. Dylan Duval off like a shot, and now you see Ronnie McKay backing it up a little bit. He doesn't want to cause the what he was into just a moment ago. Is a 22 and 72, almost made contact. The 72 wins that one. Ronnie McKay, though, back in position number 3.
McKay's got to be very careful here, Joe. Something, again, we've noticed with these super late models. As we mentioned earlier, it takes 3, 4, 6 laps to get the tires up to temperature and make these cars work to their maximum ability. So really a lot of these drivers tiptoeing right now through these corners, especially on the throttle. It's that egg under the throttle thing you always hear about. You've really got to be easy. It's so easy to buzz these tires. And when you buzz in the super late model, yeah, you can catch it, but if that thing catches and hooks just wrong, you are head first, firewall deep in the outside wall, and that's not the way you want to end the evening.
It's like we said at the beginning of the race, Tony, you don't want to end this night in the hauler. You don't want to end this night off the track. Caution back out on the field, it looks like, and I'm being told it's the 35 car that got involved. I'm sorry, the 95. Check that, the 95 of Nick Story is the one who caused that incident out there to bring out the caution flag. It looks like he gets caught up with the 51 machine, and that's going to be piloted by Kyle Gammon. So Gammon involved in this second incident tonight as those two drivers hook up Tango, and that's going to bring out the second caution flag of the evening.
Yeah, actually looked like Story got into Luke Casey in that number 4 machine, excuse me, backed off, washed up the racetrack. It was so far off the pace that it looked like Kyle Gaiman thought he could squeak a nose under him, could not do it. By the time Nick Story cranked back left, Gaiman got into him, and that's when the incident took place over in turns 1 and 2.
Couple drivers now coming down pit road for a little bit more attention on their late models. It's going to include the 98 machine, the 48, the 61, both coming down pit road. Stephen Matthews on pit road. Carter Wilson, the 34, Mike Rhino coming down. Keith Mack, the Zigzag Man, coming down. Travis Roma, the 38 machine. And Luke Cassie is going to pull it behind the wall. No, he's going to stay out there. The 4 machine with a little bit of electrical issues going to stay out, and he's going to continue to weather the storm here at Martinsville. Yellow flag for the 4th time tonight. Tony, we often say cautions breed cautions, and if that's the case, these cautions are going to look like rabbits out there.
Please, I don't want yellow rabbits running around, Joe. That's just kind of scary.
That would not be pleasant, would it? It'd be a little creepy almost.
I've heard of yellow snow and not eating yellow snow. How does that work? Don't play with the yellow rabbits or what?
I don't mess with the yellow rabbit. Because you're seeing the yellow rabbit run rampant right here at Martinsville. We're not even a third of the way through this race. We're only scoring lap 38, and we've had 4 caution flags.
Yeah, and the thing is, Joe, once these guys get things rolling, I think they'll be okay. Give them 5 or 10 laps to get spread out, as we saw at the outset, and I think this race will start to get that green flag look to it. But the kicker is you got to get to that point first, and as we just said, these things are such a handful on cold tires after a caution that drivers have a tendency to want to baby them and gingerly maneuver them around the racetrack, and sometimes that can lead to problems because you don't have the full confidence in that race car that maybe you would when you've got full heat in the tires and full maneuverability.
You absolutely have a point there. When you've got that available, when you've got that heat, that grip that these tires get as they get warmed up out there, that is going to make a big difference for these guys, and that is going to really change the quality of racing and the effect of the racing out there. Pace car lights remain on. We should be going to green flag racing in about 2 laps out there. Dylan Duvall leading most of these laps tonight, and the Swan looking very stout out there. You'll have to see what exactly happens. Lights are going to go off this time by. They're going to double them up. Dylan Duvall, Kevin Walker, row number 1, Brad Eddy, Ronnie McKay, row number 2, Kyle Bordeaux, George White, row number 3, Don Steve, Scott Negus, Doug Hubly, Stephen Arsenault, your top 10. Dylan Duvall once again getting ready to make the restart one more time. He's got Ronnie McKay right behind him. What's going to happen is Ronnie McKay gets immediately on the bumper of the 75. Oh, 75! 75 gets turned around. 75 gets turned around in front of the field, and your points leaders once again involved. The 61, the 48, the 38, all turned around. What just happened, Tony?
Big junk is just what happened, Joe. That's really all about all that happened. And kind of weird. A lot of people have been complaining about what Dylan Duvall was doing on the restarts, and I assume by that they mean bringing the field down as slow as he was. And I don't think his pace really changed at all, as much as he simply brought the field down at such a slow rate of speed and then eventually hit the throttle. And when he did that, I think the 35 actually spun the tires trying to keep up with him, got into his door, and then those two went around, and everybody else, not expecting it, also hard on the gas, went and piled in, and it created a really, really ugly chain reaction here in the front straightaway.
Yeah, I'm looking at the replay again, and I'm not sure if the 35 spun the tires or the 75 spun the tires, but both of those drivers ended up getting into each other door to door, side by side. The 75 is a big loser in that one, though, and he is going to end up into the wall, and once again, your points leaders back up in the mix. As we get ready to go for a commercial, I do have some bad news to spread here for the Maritime community, the entire Maritime racing community in mourning this evening with the loss of Harry Poole this morning, surrounded by family. Harry Poole, one of the gentlemen behind Scotia Speed World, saw it and built it and made it grow for the last 27 years, and was one of the founders of the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. He, along with Cecil Vance, were introduced into the Maritime Motorsports Hall of Fame these past years, and the Maritime race community really owes a lot of what they see on the track to both Cecil and Harry Poole. Harry Poole passing away this morning, one of the pioneers of Maritime racing. Yellow flag on the field. We'll come back after commercial break. You are watching the Maritime iRacing League live on ETV Motorsports Entertainment.
InsideSimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Oh, Miss Lucy dead and gone, left me here to weep and moan.
One less than a lap left to go. The pace car makes its way down pit road. The Maritime iRacing League about to get busy one more time here on ETV Motorsports Entertainment. Kevin Walker in for control of this field now. Brad Eddy, and you see a proper restart here on lap number 48. Kevin Walker, now 72 gets around. He gets sideways. He's able to save it. The 72 and 03 make contact going through turns 1 and 2. Ronnie McKay, he is using that 03 machine like a battering ram here on the field. I think he's a man with a mission tonight, Tony.
Take the gunpowder away from Ronald McKay, because he is shooting cannonballs, and that cannon is rolling around loose on the ship. So please remove the gunpowder from the 03 machine. Otherwise, it could get really ugly the way this day has gone so far.
Currently scoring lap 49, 2 laps away from being a third of the way done, and now you're starting to see some of your points leaders come back into contention. Ricky Arbeau in the 61 machine, he's battling from position number 10. The 52 of Steven Arsenal trying that high outside line, not going to work for him. He's going to lose 2 positions to your points leaders, to your points leader, I should say, as the rest of the field trying to figure out how they're going to run and what they're going to do to salvage their evening tonight. Ricky Arbeau, though, he knows that he needs to make some bold moves if he wants to hold on to his point lead or increase his point lead. And now the 95 machine having some troubles off turn number 4. He gets involved with the 27 and the 13 machine. Caution flag out for the 6th time tonight.
Yeah, things got really ugly off of turn number 4, Joe, and it's just one of them deals, I guess, where we talked about how these things are so ginger to handle, and they got into each other, did Nick Story and the 27 of Carter Wilson, and in came Dylan Duvall. I think pretty much ended his night after the contact. Also spinning was the number 13 car of Dave Cassidy, who was being shown 3 laps down. So what was or could have been a 1 or 2 car incident very easily and very quickly escalated to a multi-car wreck here on the front straightaway.
The 95, the 27 machine, the 95 belonging to Nick Story and the 27 belonging to Carter Wilson. Bad luck for both of them as they get tangled up coming off of turns 3 and 4. And then there's a 75 of Dylan Duvall. He was already a little bit irritated. He was already a little bit smoked, if you will, from that last incident. And you see him right behind that 13 machine, punts the 13 to get out of his way. And the 75, I think he's almost kind of glad that he blew up the motor on that one, because his night was just not going his way, and he was looking for a reason to get it done. Tim Terry, though, not going to be happy that once again the Swan meets an early ending.
Well, earlier I thought maybe Tim Terry was going to hire Dylan Duvall full-time in that car. I don't care how fast you are, I don't care how good you are, you start destroying equipment, Joe, you're going to be out of a ride. And something tells me Dylan Duvall will not be in the seat of that 75 car next week.
Well, not to mention the fact that Tim Terry comes back from his winter hiatus.
Don't let the facts get in the way of the story.
We'll go with the story then. Dylan Duvall may be looking for a new Maritime iRacing League ride in the coming weeks. But that being said, this season really coming down to an end. 3 more races after tonight, and more importantly, with tonight's all the incidents we've had tonight, the points are looking to get shaken up. your points leader, driver that 61 machine, was Ricky Arbeau, only had 10 points over Jake Goodwin coming into tonight, and so that is a very fragile lead to begin with, and what was a fragile lead could just get that much more shaky.
Well, but Jake Goodwin's had issues too as well, Joe. It hasn't been just a Ricky Arbeau disaster night. It's been a disaster for everybody at the top of the points for the most part. So it's one thing when you have a bad night. It's a completely different thing when you've got a bad night and everybody else is having just as equally of a miserable, or just as equal of a miserable night. So when you're all equally miserable, you really don't lose anything, and you're quite happy, and you go away saying, man, I missed a big one there, dodging a bullet. And at the moment, I think Ricky Arbeau and company might be thinking that.
Kevin Walker now back at the top of this field, and Kevin Walker third in points right now, less than 20 points away, 16 points if my math is correct. He currently sits at the top of this field, and if he can win, he can cut into that lead that Ricky Arbeau has. Pace car lights are off. They are doubling them up one more time. Kevin Walker, Brad Eddy on the front row, Ronnie McKay, George White, row number 2, Scott Negus, Todd Steves, row number 3, Stephen Matthews, Doug Ubley, Ricky Arbeau, Todd Cousins, your top 10, as Kevin Walker restarting in the danger zone right behind the 03 of Ron McKay. Wastes no time on the restart. Green flag flies, and the 35 machine, Kevin Walker, he has no shame restarting this race, and now he's had a lot of hungry drivers behind him playing catch the leader.
That he does, and Walker, somebody we really haven't talked about, Joe. It was Dylan Duvall up front for most of the night so far. Then Walker and Duvall got together in that restart. Walker was able to continue on, and so far, he's been really the fastest guy in the field. And for a while there, he had opened up nearly a 2-second advantage over the rest of the drivers in this competition, I should say. But the other thing is, too, that also was when Ronald McKay and Brad Eddy got together and had to back off the throttle. So a little artificial lead enhancement, however. And I got a feeling that obviously Ronald McKay is fast, Brad Eddy is fast. They all have capability possibly to win this race. However, there's something to be simply said for track position. You set the pace, you know what you're going to do, and if you're chasing that guy like an Eddy and McKay or even a George White, sometimes you have a tendency to use your stuff up before you want to, and that can be a problem.
That can absolutely be a problem, and that is something you don't want to run into. 150 laps around this track, it is a long time, and that's a long way for these tires to get burnt up just a little bit. And when you are racing up front with burned out tires compared to somebody behind you who has newer tires, who has fresher tires, that it's a little bit daunting, because that guy's going to be just that much faster, going to grab the track a little bit easier, and that's going to make it that much harder for you to defend that lead.
Yeah, it really does, Joe, and there's so many factors that play into it, not just in the actual car setup and what it can do, but mentally even, it plays a little bit with you when you're playing catch-up and trying to play the fox or the whatever it is, if you want to call it, the fox, the chaser, or if you're playing the guy that's getting chased, the prey, or the rabbit, as a lot of people call it. Mentally, it does something for you as well, so some people prefer one over the other as well, and for different people, it works different ways, and we have to wait until the end of the race to figure out exactly how it's all going to shake out.
Still plenty of time to figure out how it's all going to shake out here at Martinsville Speedway. Kevin Walker, Brad Eddy, Ronnie McKay, your top 3 right now. Steve Matthews, George White, 4th and 5th. Ricky Arbeau, your points leader, now sitting 6th. George White, Scott Negus, Stefan Arsenault, and Todd Cousins, your top 10 right now. And I think these guys have learned something from all these yellow flags. They are starting to relax a little bit out there. They're starting to show a lot more patience out there on the field, and these guys are really starting to just let the racing happen naturally, happen organically, as it were. We have talked about, Tony, that racing being a non-linear sport, and you're seeing that happen right now. After those bunch-ups, this race is really turning into something different. It's turning into the quality of racing we associate with the Maritime iRacing League.
It really is, Joe, and that is something that you and I talked about off camera a little bit, about how this tends to work at Martinsville. You get the first third or so of the race that ends up under caution, and guys just cannot keep from running into one another. And then you get the rest of the race, which usually turns out to be a pretty good event, assuming you survive all the chaos at the outset. So it's even more important when you kind of know that coming in to be sure you maintain that race car, you preserve it, and you've got as much of it left as you possibly can. to try to go to the end of the race, and in this case, these final 100 laps or so.
One driver that's not leaving a whole lot to chance out there right now is Ricky Arbeau, as you see him battling closely with the 98 of Stephen Matthews, and in front of them, Keith Mack, the 22 machine, leading that second group. That's your battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th right now. Keith Mack, the zigzag man, looking for a really strong finish out here tonight, and he's got an opportunity to smoke this field a little bit in position number 4. Stephen Matthews 5th, but Ricky Arbeau, look at him. After 2 incidents, despite the 2 incidents, despite being a little bit bent up in that machine, he is still running around. Trouble on the track. The 72 of Brad Eddy spins out in front of that group.
That was your second place runner, Joe. Kyle Eddy. Brad Eddy going around here on the back straightaway off of turn number 2. Dylan Duval was a part of it. It looked like maybe Duval, quite frankly, when you look at it coming down the back straightaway, Duval swerved to the right, Joe. I don't know if that's because he spun the tires or if that literally was a takeout move. But Duval undoubtedly swerved to the right, got into Brad Eddy, and, well, effectively has now ended Brad Eddy's night.
Hard to really say what exactly happened here and how everything took place. All we know is the 75, after making door-to-door contact with the 72 machine, came up, or the 72 came down. Either way, both those drivers met each other, and the 75 machine, he just put the tires on his front tires on the side number of that 72 of Brad Eddy. So Dylan Duval, his night just went from bad to worse. He got the Swan back out there. Problem is, he's 13 laps down on the field, and now he's getting involved in more incidents. I think the car owner's going to have something to say about that.
Yeah, I think you're right, Joe. He is going to have something to say about that. I'm trying to sit here and look for any evidence on the replays that maybe it was accidental on the part of Dylan Duval. And looking at the damage in that car and going back and kind of looking at laps previous, he is all over the racetrack as far as trying to control that car with the wheel inputs. So it lends me to believe that maybe Duval was just simply out of control, and Brad Eddy, the poor, unfortunate victim of circumstance there.
Both of them a little bit of victims of circumstance tonight, the way everything's happened and the way everything has taken place here on the track. Good news for them, though, is the laps are starting to wind down, so we're going to be able to start getting ready to make some critical decisions as to how this race is going to end. Almost 2/3 of the way done. We will restart exactly halfway done with tonight's race at Martinsville. Kyle Bordeaux waved around the pace car. He will get the Lucky Dog Award this time. Brad Eddy will go 1 lap down. Kyle Gammon is 3 laps down. Kyle Bordeaux is going to get the Lucky Dog. He'll be back on the lead lap, and a lot of drivers now looking for a little bit of help, looking for something. They want to keep up with the lead pack, but you're going to start seeing some of those drivers just physically unable to.
Yeah, Joe, I think you see some of the damage on these cars, and like you said, it just is beyond the laws of physics for that to even happen. You got guys at the top of the field that are kind of in that same boat. The Keith Mack machine has damage. Scott Negus in that Dave Dion tribute scheme has got some fenders missing and some pieces caved in. Carter Wilson in the same boat. Ricky Arbeau is all but destroyed and still rolling around. So yes, you're going to see guys, it's all about survival at this point, Joe, who can keep everything straight on the car. Kind of like we used to joke about the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing down in New Smyrna. By night number 3, you're putting on the crap that's not as bent as the junk you took off. This race is starting to kind of feel that way as lap 74 goes in the books this time with Kevin Walker taking the restart. Next time by, Joe, halfway through this 150 lapper at Martinsville for the Maritime iRacing League.
And Kevin Walker once again gets that restart and gets it in a big way. Keith Mack now in position number 2. Scott Negus up to position number 3. And look who's battling for that 3rd position right now. It is Ricky Arbeau, able to get around the 27 machine of Carter Wilson, with whom he was involved in an incident earlier. And now Arbeau's hunting down Scott Negus in the 29 machine. Negus not able to keep up with Ricky Arbeau. Arbeau looks like he's got a second win in that machine, and he is about to take it to a new level. Arbeau climbs his way back to position number 3, and now he's doing everything he can to catch up with your 2 leaders, Keith Mack and Kevin Walker.
And Joe, something I think the viewing audience needs to be aware of with these super late models. We're so used to late model stock cars here in iRacing. We're so used to trucks. We're used to nationwide cars, national cars, peak series cars, whatever it is you want to call all those things. And almost all of them have steel suspension components everywhere. That includes the tie rods, that includes the spindles, the upper control arms, the lower control arms, so on and so forth. And while these cars are very similar in that most of those major suspension components are steel, as we've got trouble on the speedway once again. Looks like the number 38 machine, Joe, is going to be involved, and he was running way back in the field. Travis Roma, looks like his night now is over.
Travis Roma gets into the wall, looks like with the help of the 05 machine of Todd Cousins. That all really started on the back stretch going into turns 3 and 4. The number 33 machine, that belonging to Doug Ubley, he got a little wobble. He ended up getting in the 05. 05 bounces off the wall straight into the 38 machine, and the 38 goes for a ride, and now heavy smoke pouring from the hood of that green and yellow 38 JPB construction machine of Travis Roma. Roma's going to pull it down pit road, and that could be his night, or at least his night in contention. They might be able to get it back on track, but not in any condition that will be able to race. Travis Roma, big trouble. That's going to bring out the caution flag once again on the field.
Tough break for him, Joe. And to kind of continue what we were talking about right before that caution flag, the way these cars are designed, super late models have a lot of aluminum in the suspension components as well. Whether that's the cross shafts of the A-arms, whether that's the strut arms that kind of make up the triangle that is part lower control arm and part ball joint and part, well, strut arm, for lack of a better term. 3 pivot points, the ball joint and the other 2 anchors. On a late model stock car or a nationwide car or whatever, that's all one assembly. On a super late model, it really takes 3 pieces. That strut arm is aluminum, and the good thing about aluminum, Joe, it flexes a whole lot. Sometimes that's bad depending on what you want to do in one of these races, but it does flex a whole lot. Same with the tie rods, they flex a bunch. And I think iRacing with this type of deal is struggling a little bit because steel doesn't flex. It bends and it's stuck. The aluminum flexes under impact, and it's something they might have to adjust over the next few seasons, but everything else, they've done a fantastic job on this car. That might be the one thing they need to look at a little bit, is maybe somehow building in some flex into those suspension components to where they can hit things and bounce back out to where they were, as opposed to hitting things and bending or breaking very easily in the physics model. And again, minor deal. If you're not hitting things, you don't have a problem, but something to look at and some explanation possibly for why so many cars are so far off the pace this early.
Pace car lights should go off next time around. Let's take a quick commercial break. Kevin Walker, Ricky Arbeau, Scott Negus, your top 3. Will they stay that way? You are watching ETV Motorsports Entertainment's live coverage of the Maritime iRacing League from Martinsville Speedway.
Join 5,000 plus other listeners where you can hear everything from big 80s metal to classic rock and roll, country radio, ETV live sports radio, even adult and unplugged rock and roll. HDRadioNetwork.com, one of the fastest growing internet radio networks. HDRadioNetwork.com. Take it with you, cowboy. Get the mobile app for Android, iPhone, iPad, and all the rest from TuneIn.com.
Green flag back on the field here at Martinsville Speedway with the Maritime iRacing League on ETV Motorsports Entertainment. Kevin Walker, Ricky Arbeau, Ronnie McKay, your top 3. And now Scott Negus of the 29 machine. Looks like he's having a little bit of trouble with that late model. Not able to really tame it in the turns as a result of some of that damage out there. You see him just struggling to keep it going the right direction in those turns. Can't get the speed up, and he's starting to drop like a rock off the field. He started in position number 3, and now position number 5, and could drop even further if Keith Mack and Don Stevens have their way. Carter Wilson back in the mix in position number 8.
cars back there, Joe. Meanwhile, up front, just as a heads up, Kevin Walker is starting to get a little bit of company. Nothing really hot in the kitchen right now, but Kevin Walker is starting to look at his rearview mirror because guess who? He just keeps pecking away and keeps chipping away. And next thing you know, here he is, runner-up spot. Ricky Arbo, with what's left of that number 61 machine, is within 5 or 6 car lengths of the top spot as they exit turn 2.
Checkers or wreckers, it looks like it's going to be for the 61 of Ricky Arbo. That car, despite being damaged, despite being nearly destroyed, the Energy Hour Chevrolet, it'll look like he's going to do everything he can to try to get the win, or if not get the win, at least get the position number 2 right behind Kevin Walker, who has a completely unscathed machine out there. He is going to continue to run half a second over Ricky Arbo and almost a full second and a half over Ronnie McKay. Ron McKay, though, he's not going to be denied anytime soon. He's going to try to continue to run out there, and slowly but surely, it looks like he's starting to reel them in. Reeled them in a tenth of a second last time by. Can he continue to do it without burning up his tires, though?
I think it's possible, Joe. Of course, only he knows how hard he's pushing that race car. We talked earlier about the Rabbit and the Fox and the Chaser and the Chasee and how that works on everybody's mind, and only Ronald McKay knows just how much that 03 machine is left. I know there's not a lot left on the nose for obvious reasons, but that's a whole different story, and I think maybe he finally calmed down a little bit, Joe. We've seen him be a lot more cautious on some of these restarts, and I'll give him a little bit of defense here. This super late model is very different compared to a lot of the other cars in iRacing. It's a very long distance.
29 goes around in turns 3 and 4 out there. Scott Negus gets around. No caution, though. He's going to continue to make it run in the right direction, but Negus just continues to have trouble with that 29 machine. Tony, I don't know if there's anything he can do now just to salvage that machine without going down pit road and seeing what they can do for him.
I think that's it, Joe. You got to come in and just simply let the crew work on it, but you don't want to lose all that time. He's being scored 12th on the lead lap right now, and that's a pretty valuable spot to be in. However, if he does go a lap or 2 down, we might see that change. He might decide to go ahead and come down pit road and just go ahead and let the crew make some repairs and see if he can put that car to where it is manageable underneath it. Back to our point about Ronald McKay, because this car is so long, Joe, it is sometimes very hard to judge where the nose and the right front fender of this car is. So a little bit of defense of Ronnie McKay that sometimes it takes a little getting used to a super late model compared to everything else on iRacing.
One driver who seems to have gotten a real handle of it now late in the race is Jake Goodwin in the 48 machine. When he restarted outside the top 15. Now he's position number 9 on the field in the 48 machine, despite being damaged, despite being destroyed. The Red Bull machine keeps moving in the right direction out there. Jake Goodwin now position number 9 and starting to climb on the 072 of George White. Those flames are hot, but the number 48 of Jake Goodwin might be just that much hotter as they continue to turn laps. Time running out here at Martinsville Speedway, almost 2/3 of the way through. These guys all looking for something special in their cars to continue making them work. Back up front, almost a battle for position number 1. Kevin Walker still fighting off Ricky Arbo.
And doing a good job, Joe, is to get ready to come up on the Scott Negus machine and put him that first lap down. This could pose a little bit of a challenge for Walker and Arbo, I think might be taking the Walker car to task as he pulls right up to within a couple of inches almost of his rear bumper getting into turn number 3. Walker now knows Arbo is a threat. He's running down, he's calling him, and now the mind games begin, Joe. Is it the 61 has now burned his stuff up and he can't get by me? Is it the 61 saving his stuff and he can get by me anytime he chooses? Or is it, well, I got a little bit left, I'll go ahead and use it so the 61 stays behind me? It's a little bit of mind game, a little bit of chess right now on the racetrack as these two continue to circulate, now with less than 50 laps to go.
Time officially running out, 2/3 of this race in the books. It's starting to be go time, as Jean-Claude Van Damme would say. Kevin Walker, Ricky Arbo up front. Ronnie McKay still trailing behind them in third. McKay, it looks like he's slowly reeling them in. He doesn't look like he's in a hurry to catch them right now. It looks like he's playing a little bit of conservation, still ticking off about a tenth of a second every lap, about maybe half of that every lap. But McKay still doing what he can. He wants to finish this race in third, and I think he wants to do it just to prove the point that he can. Mack in that second group, Keith Mack continues to run fourth as he passes the lap car 50-51 of Kyle Gammon. Steve Matthews going to join him as well. Luke Cassie in the 4 machine, position number 12, despite being 1 lap down.
Hey, Joe, I think if you soldier on, you finish this race, you're going to have a good night. We've seen a lot of guys get beat up, get torn up, get absolutely shoved around like a pinball, and they're still going to have a top 15 run tonight. Nothing stellar, but they're going to finish and they're going to have a solid run. Although, not probably what they wanted, they at least get to have that dreaded phrase, a good points day tonight.
Hey, a good points day is better than nothing. 24 cars started this field tonight. Only 14 of them remain on the field as they continue to run as hard as they can. Tonight's race less about winning and more about the S word, survival. Kevin Walker able to survive. Ricky Arbeau, despite lots of damage on that 61 machine, continuing to survive. Ronnie McKay looking like a predator out there. He's going to continue to run. 35, 61, 03, your top 3.
And big traffic now for the leaders. They work by the 40 and Jake Goodwin, putting him 1 lap down. They just put George White 1 lap down. Don Steves now a lap down. So now they're down to what? 7 cars on the lead lap, Joe. That's a pretty small number. Look at Arbeau. Here he goes to the inside. Walker saw him coming through the block. And don't look now, guys, but Ronald McKay has joined the top pair. And he now is going to be a threat for this lead if maybe Arbeau and Walker were to get together.
What was 7 cars might turn into 6 cars as those top 3 lining up now, and you see them just working together in line to try to get return laps as fast as they can. Arbeau, though, in the 61, I think he's looking for a little bit more than just a second place finish. He wants to win this thing, and you see him at every turn getting as close to the 35 as he can, running in his tire tracks. The problem with the 61, though, is he's starting to run those turns just a little bit wide. You see him get wide going into the turns 1 and 2 now, and then he's going to be wide coming off turns 3 and 4. Compare to that unscathed 35 machine. Arbeau, he's turning into the little engine that could, but at the end of the day, will he? That's the question.
I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Right now, Kevin Walker can win this race. 39 laps to go this time. Again, clicking off in a hurry here at Martinsville. And Walker now, when they're in free traffic and free racetrack with nobody in front of them, Joe, he is just a hair faster than Ricky Arbeau. Nothing substantial, but just enough to keep slowly walking away. Not even walking, crawling away from the 61 car.
The 05 gets in the mix one more time. The 05 almost loses at Todd Cousins. He is several laps down on the field, currently being scored 26 laps down on the field right now. Almost lose it in front of your top leaders, and that would have been catastrophic to your top 3. Yes, they've got a big lead. They've got a huge advantage right now, but if they can't make it work, if something were to happen to that top 3, they could lose it just as easy as they have it. Kevin Walker, Ricky Arbeau, Ronnie McKay, your top 3. Ricky Arbeau now doing everything he can to fend off Ronnie McKay. This battle for the lead may not happen, but the battle for second still alive and well.
Now, we already know McKay is not shy of using that bumper if he has to. And again, not saying those other deals were intentional or not, but he's already used it a few times, whether he meant to or otherwise. So might as well go ahead and tear the thing off and let the rough side drag. And McKay could do that before this race is over with. You see those two now visibly falling back off of Kevin Walker, the leader. And I think that's a soothing thing to see for Kevin Walker, Joe. He now knows that, yes, I am in control of this race as long as I don't screw it up. Situations like this right here with Gammon and the 4 car of Casey can screw it up if you make the wrong move.
Or if one of those drivers make the wrong move for you, if they get too bold, if they decide they want to race a little bit, that could be happen. As you see right there happen with the 03 machine, Ron McKay noses it into the wall after making contact with the 4 of Luke Casey. Luke Casey noses the 03 in, and is the yellow flag going to come out for this one? It looks like it will. Lights aren't on. No, they aren't going to come on. They're going to continue to go green flag racing with the 03 of Ronnie McKay. He's not a happy camper right now, not in the least.
Well, you know what they say about karma, Joe. And again, not saying any of those other things were intentional, but what goes around comes around, and Ronald McKay really got lucky in that aspect, Joe, because he didn't lose any position on the scoreboard. He did lose track position, but he's got a half a lap back to 4th place Keith Mack. So as long as he can hold it underneath him, he'll be good. Now behind him we've got problems. Kyle Gammon's car has just gone up in smoke. The number 51 machine limping around the inside of the racetrack. No caution for fluid yet, apparently none on the speedway, but Kyle Gammon's night is officially done, as he'll bring it to the attention of the crew and make that hard left-hand turn into the garage this time.
Heavy smoke going off the 51 machine of Kyle Gammon. His night is done as your leaders continue to tick off laps. No yellow flag left. Let's go ahead and continue. Now, Kevin Walker, Ricky Arbeau, your top 2, and they just continue to tick off time, tick off laps. And it looks like electrical problems now for Kevin Walker. He just disappeared, Tony.
He just did, Joe. Kevin Walker has gone from hero to 0, and apparently he has dropped the server. He has warped out. Something has gone awry on his machine that's out of his control. And I guess if you're Ricky Arbeau, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. He didn't have a car fast enough to get by Walker, but hey, he'll take you however he can get it. And on top of that now, Arbeau has only got 5 cars on the lead lap, including himself. So even if this thing were to go to absolute hell in a handbasket for him, there's really, unless it gets really bad, there's really not a lot of ground he's going to be able to lose.
The 29 machine of Scott Negus looks like he's blocking the 61 of Arbeau there real quick. Now the 29 goes way high, opens the door for the 61. That Scott Negus in that 29 machine several laps down. Now that doesn't help him at all. Ricky Arbeau, though, the beneficiary of good luck. After his night went from good to bad, after it went from bad to worse, able to find a way to get it back up to the front of the field, and now you see him 2 seconds over Ronnie McKay. The difference, though, is Ronnie McKay has a relatively cleaner car. He might have a little bit faster car, and I was wondering if Ronnie McKay was playing conservation back there, because he was able to make it work so well back there. And now he was reeling in. Arbeau, now not so much, with only 25 laps left to go as soon as they hit the start-finish line. It's going to be an interesting finish to see if Arbeau can hold on, or if Ron McKay is going to come back through the field.
Now, McKay was kind of stuck behind the number 29 machine of Negus, so the next time by, it looks like Arbeau and McKay will be on even terms. They'll both be in clean racetrack, and we'll see, at least according to the stopwatch, who has the better car. I've got a feeling it's going to be Arbeau, but McKay could surprise us, Joe. Although he had problems negotiating traffic by himself, he might be fast enough to catch Ricky Arbeau. Once again, catching Arbeau is one thing, passing him is another, and losing 1/10 of a second a lap on open racetrack going to make it that much harder as well.
Kevin Walker, the heartbreak story of the night. He was leading this race. He had a huge advantage over Arbeau, and Ronnie McKay drops the server. He is back in, but he is now back in officially 7 laps back. His night is officially, for all intents and purposes, done. I can't even count the amount of yellow flags he would need to catch up from the lucky dog alone. Kevin Walker, that's got to hurt, because that's something that's completely out of these drivers' control, Tony.
Yeah, it really is, Joe. And, I mean, yeah, you can make sure you have the best equipment and do everything else, but you know what? Sometimes it's like engines. You don't know why things blow up. They just do. It wasn't even a bad batch of parts. It was just a bad batch of atoms in those parts you couldn't control, essentially. And Kevin Walker, that's part of why we run the race, Joe, because it takes 2 parts, the man and the machine. In this case, it's a little bit of a different type of machine, but nonetheless, you've got to have a perfect pairing to make things go right.
And we talk about that problem being unique to sim racing, the connectivity, the latency, the internet factor of it, but there's so much more that goes into it as well there, Tony, that actually could happen on the track. All it takes is one a bolt going missing. All it takes is something going loose, a stuck, something in the car, and once again, by random chance, your car could be done for the night.
You're exactly right, Joe. It's no different than a bolt shaking loose, a nut coming out, ring and around a piston breaking, whatever it is, an electrical box failing, an ignition going haywire. I mean, there are so many aspects of a physical race car that can fail. The simulated car is really no different, and in all reality, you've got fewer aspects of the car that can fail in a simulated environment, but nonetheless, they can still fail, and they're parts of your machine. What they do is different, but the end result is the same.
end result is the same as we have the Cowboy now joining us. JD Webb, our executive producer. It's always a pleasure to have you up here in the booth. What do you say, Cowboy?
Hey, I love this stuff. You know what? This short track racing is really getting into my blood. Hey, just wanted to throw a shout out to a couple of guys that tuning in tonight. Carson Aubie, hope I got that last name right. Chris Garnett is watching. Chris Stewart is also tuning in, along with Jordan Gray and a whole bunch of them over there. Eddie Walzik from United Short Track Racing Association, Double Clutch, sponsoring the MRL races here tonight on ETV Motorsports Entertainment. Hey, in a couple of weeks here, Sunday and Thursday nights, short track racing coming to ETV Entertainment Live, so get ready for that. So we ain't done yet, Cowboy, but I'll tell you what, this MIRL stuff, I love this stuff. Good league, good racing, short track, just the kind of thing I like tuning into.
Always a lot of fun. JD Webb, the man in the cowboy hat, making a lot of things work out here. We love to talk to you more about this Thursday, Sunday night stuff because it's always fun to see this short track racing come alive on ETV Motorsports Live.
I'll tell you what, Eddie Walzik, Double Clutch, Jennifer, that whole gang over there, Eric Crossan, they're working real hard in the background, getting ready to launch this series. Going to be in Season 2, the iRacing regular schedule there. Short track racing, and I tell you what, it's the best of the best. I tell you, if you haven't seen the kind of short track racing that these Cowboys put on, you gotta tune in and watch this stuff. We just got done here a couple 3-4 weeks back with the World Series of short track racing, or stock car racing rather. And I tell you, these guys really do it up well. So and it'll be right here live on ETV Motorsports Live.
Looking forward to that series. Cowboy JD Webb joining us here in the booth as time ticks down here at Martinsville Speedway. One more time around, 11 laps to go, and Ricky Arbeau right now in his own time zone. 5 seconds over Ron McKay, 11 seconds over Keith Mack, Carter Wilson, Stephen Matthews, the only 5 drivers on the lead lap right now, Tony. This race could be decided.
Yeah, I think Arbeau, though, I've never seen a race be won across state lines, and I think he's somewhere down in Greensboro now, and everybody else is still up here around Ridgeway and Martinsville. That's how far ahead that Ricky Arbeau is, and he continues to stretch that lead out lap after lap after lap. And Joe, if you'd have told Ricky Arbeau, I think 30 or 40 laps into this race, you're going to end up as the leader with 40 to go or 30 to go or whatever it is, I think he'd have told you were crazy. But hey, races play out, circumstances present themselves, and those who take full advantage of it when preparation meets opportunity, as is the case with Ricky Arbeau, we call it good luck. Well, here it is. He's up front now with 8 to go this time and leading by over 1/3 of a lap over Ronald McKay.
Tony, the magic number for Ricky Arbeau right now has to be 3, and I say that because if a yellow flag comes out with 5 to go, with 4 to go, then this race is, for all intents and purposes, going to be done. They're not going to go back to a green white checkered finish. They're not going to go back to an overdrive finish. They will finish under the yellow flag. So Ricky Arbeau right now, knowing a yellow flag, if it comes out right this moment, could affect his evening, could affect his chance of winning here tonight. But if it doesn't come out, if it stays clean the rest of the way through, or that yellow flag comes out at around lap 146, 147, the race is over. So Arbeau nervously counting down each and every lap, making sure he is flawless through them. He completes lap 144, now scoring lap 145, 6 to go.
And the good news for Arbeau, he's got clean racetrack on both sides of his race car, Joe. He's got plenty of room to ride, plenty of room simply to click off laps and just get to the finish. He's got a large contingent of cars up in front. He's quickly catching them, including the number 33 machine he now is going to work by rather quickly. That is Doug Hubley. He'll give him the bottom lane. But if I'm Arbeau, I really don't even try pursuing these guys. I just hang back. I've got over a full straightaway back to the next car I really have to worry about aside from Hubley. I just kind of ride, do my thing, and let the laps wind down, because as long as I can keep it between the walls, I'm going to be in good shape.
That is absolutely correct. And now they score lap 147. If the yellow flag comes out, it's still race over. And Ricky Arbeau If he can complete the next 3 laps, the next 4 laps, without an incident, without that engine blowing up, without a tire going down, Ricky Arbeau could very easily win this race. Ron McKay second, Keith Mack finishing 3rd so far in the field as you see the trouble getting around him. The 48 machine getting sideways through that turn. And as we approach lap traffic now, the 61 has a new factor to deal with as we get around to 3 to go. If one of those cars gets loose, one of those cars gets dangerous, can put him in the wall, that could be the end of his night. 2 to go now. Ricky Arbeau treading dangerous water as he continues to pass lap cars.
Yeah, Joe, if I'm on the radio to Ricky Arbeau, even if I'm Ricky Arbeau, I'm doing everything I can to make sure I don't put myself in a bad spot. You almost saw him put himself in a bad spot right there off turn number 4. He didn't, and now he's put himself in a great position. White flag in the air, leading this race. He's got 15 car lengths to the next guys he has to worry about, including Kevin Walker. And it looks like Ricky Arbeau can put it on cruise control and push it home from here.
One more circuit around Martinsville in what's been a long and contentious night for the Maritime guys. He crosses the line. Ricky Arbeau, your winner here at Martinsville in the Maritime iRacing League. Ronnie McKay second, Keith Mack third, Stephen Matthews fourth, and Carter Wilson rounding out your top 5. The only 5 cars to finish on the lead lap tonight. Ricky Arbeau survives. That's the only word I can think of, Tony. He survives for the win.
That's really about the only thing you could say, Joe. With 5 cars on the lead lap out of the 25 that started the night, only 20% of the field able to come home completing all 150 laps. And I think there's a smaller number that doesn't have some sort of damage on their race cars. But that's short track racing at its best. And congratulations to Ricky Arbeau. That is one of the reasons he leads the point standings here, Joe, in the Maritime iRacing League, because he knows how to make, or take advantage and make the best out of whatever situation he is dealt. Here are the cards, here are the chips, here's the result. They're all on the table. Arbeau wins this hand.
Ricky Arbeau picks up win number 3 at Martinsville Speedway in the spring series of the Maritime iRacing League. When we come back, we'll talk to him and your top 3 finishers here at Martinsville in what's been a very long, very contentious race. Ricky Arbeau, your winner. We'll talk to him next on ETV Motorsports Entertainment. .150 laps in the books here at Martinsville Speedway. The race officially over. Ricky Arbeau, your winner in the Maritime iRacing League here on ETV Motorsports Live. Ricky Arbeau, your winner. Ronnie McKay second, Keith Mack third, Carter Wilson fourth, Stephen Matthews rounding out your top 10. Stefan Arsenal, Don Steves, George White, Scott Negus, Luke Cassie, your top 10. Jake Goodwin, Doug Hubbley, Kevin Walker, Todd Cousins, Travis Roma, your top 15. Kyle Gammon, Kyle Boudreau, Dylan Duvall, Brad Eddy, Nick Story, your top 20. Rounding out the field tonight, David Cassidy, Mike Rhino, Chris Stewart, and Morgan Murphy, your field of 24 in what's been a very long, very contentious night here at Martinsville Speedway. But the big winner, the big recipient of the trophy, finding his way back through the field, was your points leader for his third time this season. Ricky Arbo finds victory lane. Let's go ahead and go down trackside with him and Tony Stevens.
Thanks, Joe. And Ricky, if we had told you 50 laps into this race that you were going to end up leading the final 20 or 30 some circuits and winning this race, what would you have told us?
Well, to be honest, I don't think I was going to be up there. It's a shame for my teammate Kevin. It was his race, hands down. I was happy to run back where I was, considering the carnage I went through. I don't know what happened. I haven't watched the replay yet. On one restart, I got turned and put in the fence. The damage was more cosmetic than anything. Had to take some tape off the grill to keep the car cooler. It was getting hot. Other than that, it bent the toe a little bit. The crew did a good job, got the car all fixed back up, and we were about a tenth slower than what we usually were, but the car wasn't too bad.
Well, like you said, they did a fantastic job, and you answered my next question, which was how bad really was that damage, because it looked horrific, and we were pretty much amazed at what you're able to do with that race car. But if it was strictly cosmetic with maybe a little difference in the toe, then it explains why you're able to stay up to speed. You now have about a 40-point lead unofficially over the rest of the field in this series with 3 races still to go. Do you put it on cruise control and just kind of try to get top 10 finishes, or is this now the time where you take extra risks to go for blood and get trophies?
Oh, we're out here points racing every week. My focus is top 5. Top 5, top 3 is my goal, and if I feel I can win it, then you never know. If I feel I can go for it, I'm going to go for it, but I'm smart enough to know if I ain't got the car, I'm not going to stuff it in somewhere it doesn't belong and take someone out. But I don't know. Tonight, again, it wasn't. This shouldn't have been my race. This was Kevin Walker's race, hands down. He had the car to beat. He did a good job on his setup. That's what's underneath mine was a piece from him that I tweaked to my style. He's a great teammate to have, and I got to thank the rest of my team also. You know, we put in a lot of hours this week.
I was going to say, luck is defined by many people as when preparation meets opportunity, and who all helps to prepare you and your 61 machine for success on the racetrack? Oh,
definitely my main sponsors, Energy Hour Productions, Atlantic Stock Car Radio, Nick Story. He's been on board with me all season. I'm glad to get him in victory lane. I also got to thank Auto Essentials, Buff and Stuff, Custodial, Arley Renovations, Eastside Board Supply, of course Double Clutch for sponsoring these races, all the admins that help out. Also you guys, ETV, you guys put on fantastic broadcasts for me to watch at work the next day. And like I say, also I got to thank my team, York County Motorsports, Nathan Doherty, Chris Stewart, Mark Landers out, Chris drove his car today, and Chuck Morehouse, and everybody, Kevin Walker. It was a great race.
That's your winner, Joe. Ricky Arbo, luckily coming home with the checkered flag. But hey, he'll take him however he can get him. He earned this one no matter what he says here tonight.
Ron McKay in the 03 machine, finishing position number 2 tonight. And Ron, before we begin, before I even ask you about your run tonight, I want to go back to that very, very first incident between you and the 75 of Dylan Duvall. From your hood, you were running that third at that point. What happened? What happened in front of you there?
I don't know. It looked like the 35 and the 75 might have got together on the start. I don't know if Brad might have got into the back of Kevin a little bit and just got him sideways. And as soon as you take your foot out of the fuel when you're that close, and as soon as they started banging, I seen Dylan's car wiggle, and I was into the back of him, and there was no returning from that. It was just one of them deals. It kind of happened in front of me there. I guess I was just part of it as anyone else, but there's not much you can do in a case like that. The first thing I seen was Kevin's car going sideways, and then I heard them talking afterwards, and Brad thought he might have touched him just a little bit, but when you're on the fuel, on a restart like that, you're on the fuel hard coming up out of the corner, and if somebody just barely touches you, if you spin the tires, and the rest is history. There's not much you can do in a case like that.
Certainly not much you can do, but you found a way to survive this race, ended up in position number 2, and it looks like you had a great battle going up there between yourself and Kevin Walker and Ricky Arbeau. If Kevin could have stayed up front and you guys had a clean track, how would the race have ended? Could it have ended any differently?
I don't know. I think Kevin might have had us covered. Kevin's a pretty smart racer, and we get him around some lap cars there, and he'll back it down a tenth or so and just get in the corner easy so he doesn't make a mistake. And he's a pretty bright guy, so it's so hard to pass. I mean, you're not going around him on the top, and you're going to have to get him to make a mistake. And he's a real clean driver and a good fella, and I don't think there's anybody in the field that's going to be willing to knock his back bumper off to win the race. So he probably had us covered. I don't know if I could have got Ricky or not. I caught them guys. My car was garbage for about 6 or 8 laps, and then it would come in, and once we kind of got into the middle of the run, the car was probably as good or better than anybody's, but like I say, you can't pass. And we run up against them lap cars, and I was right behind them guys, and the lap cars on the outside, I don't know who it was, but they let the first 2 guys go. They let Ricky and Kevin go, and I tried to follow them through and get back up to the wall to get my entrance back into the next corner. And I don't know. I mean, I probably tried to get a little more than what was there, and the other guy, you know, I kind of think he maybe should have eased up out of it a little bit until all the leaders were gone. I mean, there was only 3 of us. It was just another split second, and we all would have been by, and I got hooked, but that might have been my own fault. And once I done that, the car just started pushing and beat the right front off it, and there was no catching anybody then. It was just lucky that we had such a spread and there was no more cautions, because the car was junk after that.
Ron, 3 races left in the Maritime iRacing League. You're 6th in points. What's the goal for the rest of the season here on out?
I'd like to finish a race without running into someone or someone running into me, to be honest with you. I don't mean that in a negative way, but we've had good cars, just had absolutely no luck whatsoever. Got taken out at Langley, and just kind of got behind the 8 ball at Irwindale there, and beat around a little bit there. It was just a racing incident. Got in the back and then had to come back up through the pack, and I dumped the car in the fence trying to get too much. I wasn't really paying attention like I should have been, and didn't get a finish there. And I mean, this was a good finish, but this wasn't really much of a race. We had a good car, but I don't like races like that. And the very first of the race there, I haven't seen the replay or anything. We were on a restart and going down in the corner, and Jake slid down in front of me, and I don't know if he thought there was more room than there was, but I mean, you just cannot stop. And I was on the brakes hard, and I got into him, and he slid up the track, and I don't know if something happened to Ricky or what it was, but they all got together. But like, regardless, I got into the back of him. It's my fault, but there was nothing I could do. I never thought for a second he was going to come down, and I jumped on the brakes, and it was just a mess from the drop of the green flag, really. I'm not really a big fan of races like that.
Well, I know there's a lot of stickers here on the car, and a lot of people watching you here on ETV Motorsports Live. Who makes it work for you, buddy?
Well, let's thank Sean Simple Signs, Safeway Auto Parts, Thruway Muffler, and all my teammates at Revolution Racing. They were good enough to take me on as a teammate there at the start of this season, and they're a great group of guys, and they're a big help with. We work on the setups and stuff like that, and I'll tell you, it's a whole lot easier doing that when you got another 4 or 5 guys testing and everybody throwing their 2 cents worth in. So all them guys, big hats off to them, and thanks for having me. And Double Clutch, thanks for sponsoring the race. You know, I'll take my part of it. That sorry it wasn't a little bit cleaner.
Ron McKay and the number 03 machine finishing second tonight. Good run, Ron. We'll see you next week when we go racing here in the Maritime iRacing League.
All right, thanks very much, guys.
That is Ron McKay. Tony Stevens catching up with a driver who would have loved to finish a little bit stronger tonight. Jake Goodwin in the 48 machine, currently second in points.
Absolutely, Joe, hanging out with Jake Goodwin. And Jake, I see you looking up at the scoreboard, essentially, and that gap that was, 10 or 15 points coming into the night, now much larger, about 40 markers between you and Ricky Arbo. How do you make that up with 3 races left?
To make that up on Ricky, it's pretty tough. He needs some really bad luck, or I guess I better win all 3 races and he better finish 10th or worse, I guess.
You talk about bad luck. You had some of it tonight. He had some of it, but he also had some good luck in the process. How hard is it, or how easy is it, whichever the case might be, to put yourself in a position where those things do or don't happen to you? I mean, it happened to both of you at the outset, and then you obviously got caught up in a few more as the race went along. So really take us through your race, because it seemed like it just went from bad to worse.
Pretty sure every time we run at Martinsville, I always have bad luck. I can't seem to shake the Martinsville luck I've been having. We started off good, but it got tight really fast, and then I tried to drop down there in front of Ronnie, and he just couldn't get her woed up in time. Bumped me and put me in a Ricky, and we got some damage there, and then me and Ricky were in another wreck, but I had some engine damage and I couldn't get it fixed up.
I mean, it always takes power to a place like Martinsville, where these straightaways are so long with such a light race car like these super late models. Obviously, Martinsville, not the race you wanted, but we've got some races coming up that maybe are going to be a little happier to look forward to. Are there any of the next 3 events that you are maybe circling on the calendar to say, this is my chance to at least pick up another win before the season's over?
Well, we haven't made her to victory lane yet. We'd started off really strong, consistent, but I would love to get a win before the end of the season's out and maybe chase Ricky down, but at least try to keep her up in the points anyway.
Certainly would be a good thing. Obviously, finishing the top 3 in points in this series is no small task. Certainly means you had to beat a lot of people very often in order to make that happen. Who all makes things happen for you on a weekly basis, Jake?
CBC Racing and all the sponsors, Double Clutch, Tim's Corner, JDR Graphics, Custom Colors, Patterson Sales and Services, the Weekly Press. They all help put on a great show.
We certainly are sad to see your misfortune tonight, but best of luck in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good work.
That's Jake Goodwin, Joe, currently second in points, and not nearly as close as he was coming into tonight. But, hey, anything is still possible. We saw it last season in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. It doesn't matter how close you are or are not. As long as you mathematically can make it happen, anything is possible.
Anything is possible with 3 races left to go here in the Maritime iRacing League Spring Series. That will do it for us here from Martinsville Speedway. Our thanks, as always, goes to Double Clutch Motorsports, bringing you these events here each and every week on ETV Motorsports Live. 3 races to go left in the Maritime iRacing League. You don't want to miss out. Visit mirl.ca for more information on the Maritime iRacing League. So on behalf of our entire team that makes it work here, my partner in crime, Tony Stevens, our executive producer, JD Webb, John Westling, making all the cameras work. I am Joe Cortez. Be sure to join us next week at 8 p.m. Atlantic, 7 p.m. Eastern for the Maritime iRacing League live from USA Speedway. We'll see you then here on ETV Motorsports Entertainment. Good night, everybody.